Right, if we go off of where, bleh. Now first off, they not to know. So when you want to move forward with processing an application to become a fiance, to get out. English, mother effer, do you speak it? Hello everybody and welcome back to another One Woman Circus. Today I wanted to cover the topic of getting my fiance visa. Now, as mentioned before, I just need to give a bit of a disclaimer. Again, I'm not a professional, not a solicitor, not an expert. I'm just merely telling you what my experiences were and the process that I went through to get my fiance visa. If you are curious into hearing more, I would highly suggest that you go to the government website here for the UK, which is www.gov.uk. You can learn more about the process, the name of the forms, etc, etc, etc. But for now, what I'm going to just go through is just my process. So, right, with that said, let's get into it. If you recall from my previous video, Dave and I had met in Cancun, Mexico on holiday. For the next year after holiday, David and I decided to keep in touch via Skype, via Facebook, messengers, email, just logging back and forth and speaking to each other for the next year until we decided who was to move where. It was finally decided that I would move to the UK. Reason being that my husband has 2 children, whereas I don't have any children myself, and I didn't really want Dave moving that far away from his kids. And so it was really important to me that I could be local and be in a place where if anything were to happen, Dave could have easy access to his children. So when applying for my fiance visa, here are a few key things that they were looking for specifically. One, that Dave and I actually knew each other. To be able to prove that you have met and that you are talking and that this isn't like a situation where you're just trying to sneak your way into the UK. So they want proof that you guys have had a relationship and that you guys have indeed been conversing back and forth. That can include showing them tickets to any trips that you both took to the same place, like Mexico. I had to turn in my Mexico tickets to them. All of our call logs, so if we did anything on our mobile phones or like Skype or any of that, we could take the call log to show that we've been conversing with each other every day. If there were messages, we had to send them the messages, so like Facebook Messenger is what Dave and I had started out on, and email as well. And so they wanted a good like couple months of proof of messages, like 6 months or more. Just enough to prove that this was like a genuine relationship, which was fine. It's good to show the messages. However, I do think they got a little bit more of an eyeful than they may have wanted to see. And by eyeful, I mean that I told him what a wonderful man he is. Yes. So my suggestion is if you're going to send them messages, you might want to screen them through the ones that you're going to send them first, because they can, yeah, a bit embarrassing. Second thing that they wanted to know about was any sort of previous relationships you may have had, whether that be like a marriage or like a civil partnership or something of that sort. What they want to know is that if you had a previous relationship and had it been dissolved or basically completely cut off. In my case, I was previously married. I had been divorced obviously for quite a while to this point, but I still had to show them records of our divorce documentation to show that we were divorced. My husband was the same. He was previously married as well and also had to show divorce documentations and such to show that those relationships were no longer existing, so therefore ours could be the existing relationship. Another thing that they would ask us to show, from the point that I moved into the UK, so the day that I arrived to the UK, I had 6 months to basically get married to him, and we had to prove that we were doing that. So in order to do that, what happened was my husband had went down to our local council office and registered for us to get married. Now obviously, because I'm coming in on a visa, it wasn't just as easy as like getting 2 people together, getting them registered and get married. Basically what we had to do was go in, make the appointment to get married, which we did on February the 14th of 2011. Collectively, let's hear everybody go, Aww. But yes, we set that up for them, but again, because I was coming in on a visa, we also had to set up an additional appointment to where they would interview us. It was just a small basic interview at the office to prove that we did know each other and that this was like a coming together relationship that was a legit one and not one of, you know, like me just trying to get into the UK. They also would like to know that where you are living is an appropriate place to reside. So appropriate and permanent, I should say, really. When I say permanent, I don't mean like, you know, that we can't ever sell our house or can't move. What I mean permanent is that it's a place that you can live in, it's suitable, sustainable for yourself and your partner, especially like financially, which brings me into the next, which means you need to have a partner that can financially support you while you come in on this visa. The reason for this being is because you can't work for the first 6 months. So what they want to know is that you are able to sustain yourself without any help from the government or aids or anything like that. So when I moved here, I want to say that the threshold that my husband needed to make over was $18,000. So he had to be able to sustain us until I was able to work again. They do generally say it takes about 6 months. However, I don't think I quite hit 6 months. I think it may have been just a bit under, but they did some quick processing with me once I got here. So the ball kind of moved a little bit quicker than say it would have if you'd stayed on that fiance visa for like the full 6 months. What you're looking at is having to, you don't work at all on your fiance visa. And then when you switch to your marriage visa, you have to go through more paperwork process to get things sorted and arranged and get your national insurance your national insurance card, and then a few other things. So once those are put into place, then you can start working. For me, because we got married within I'd say about a month and a half of me being there, we were able to get that process quite quick. So it may have been 6 months or a bit earlier that I was able to start working, but work around that idea. Now, as just mentioned, once you get married, you move from your fiance visa to a marriage visa, which we'll discuss more in a later video. What I didn't want to do was screw things up and get rejected for any reason. And my phone is now ringing. Oh, speak of the devil. Sorry, that was Dave calling. Right, what we were getting into before I was rudely interrupted was the process that I went through to obtain my fiance visa. Now, I actually went through a solicitor, as I was saying before, to obtain my fiance visa. The reason for this was because it does cost quite a bit of money to do the visa, and then if you are rejected or the visa gets rejected due to any sort of mistake, you lose out on that money. You have to restart the process, and it is quite expensive. What we had to pay was, I think it was £800 by post for the application. That's by post. And remember, you guys, this is in pounds, not in dollars. So, I mean, we were talking about, like, at the moment, it being about $1.39 per pound. So, you know, if you take that, times it by 800, it's a bit more than that in dollars. So it's an expensive process. You're looking probably around the 1,000 mark. And so I don't know about you guys, but I don't really have $1,000 or 800 pounds even to just kind of blow on nothing. So it was really important to me that we did the process right, and that it went through right the first time, so that we could get over here and get the process going with getting the visa approved. So we did it by post, which cost us £800. If you go in person, I believe it's $1,300. This is the cost just for the application. It doesn't include the cost of the solicitor or biometrics that you have to get. Now, biometrics, what that is it's just information about yourself. You go into wherever local place they tell you to go in your city. It's usually like a government official building, and what they do is they'll fingerprint you, take a picture of you, get your information like height, weight, things like that. It's all information about yourself that gets stored onto a chip. Now this chip is something that ends up getting put on your card. So when you get your Visa cards, you'll see that there's a little chip in it. And it's so that if they need to scan it or look at it, all of your biometric information is right there in that card, and I'm sure anything else that needs to be said. So to get this process started, I had to fill out a 17-page application form, which goes through everything from who you are and your personal details to even like your parents. It'll ask about your husband, it'll ask about your kids if that's applicable, it'll ask about any sort of criminal statuses, etc, etc, etc. So you go through quite a long questionnaire. This application is compiled with evidence to prove your relationship. So again, that could be the messages, that could be texts, that could be things on Facebook, etc. Or like Dave, for example, they wanted bank statements. They wanted statements to prove how much his income was, proof of address, so additional bills just to show that he was living where he was. They did a criminal background check on him. So I mean, you compile all this information, turn it in, and from this point, it can take about anywhere between a couple weeks to a couple months to approve. It really just depends on how busy they are at the time. Now, in my situation, it took them from the point that we turned everything in, which did take us a good month or so to compile everything. From the point that they received everything, it took 45 days for me to get my approval to go. Now, I know what you're thinking. 45 days really isn't that long. And when I say 45 days, I mean 45 business days. So 45 business days to get everything done. However, when you were like me, the person who gave up their job and when kind of took a sabbatical to spend time with family in hopes to be moving to the UK a lot sooner, than it can be a bit grueling. It's a bit more nerve-wracking as well, because from the time you send that off, you don't hear anything at all until they approve it. So, I mean, you don't know what's happening, so your mind is going in crazy loops of why is it taking so long? What's happening with this? You can't call and ask anybody. There's nobody to call and ask. They don't want you calling and asking either. So, I mean, you literally have to just sit there and wait it out. I thought for sure come around December time, it'll get approved in December. It'll get approved. I'll be there by Christmas. I had finished work. I'd had everything packed up, gone. I had went to my parents' house to just spend that last month with them. I wanted to spend time with them before I moved here because I wasn't sure how long I would be here and when I get a chance to go back and visit them again, because you're trying to set up your new life and everything. I spent the month with them, and not knowing that it was going to take longer than that time. I had nothing really to do. I was in a small town, limited financial resources because I needed to save my pennies for moving over. Obviously, I still have bills to pay as well, so I need to make sure that I was paying my bills while I was on this time off. So there was a lot of clock watching and phone watching and a lot of worrying and panicking. I mean, like, as the days kept dragging on, all you could just sit there and think is, oh my gosh, what's taking so long? Like, there are days where you just go in a downright panic, and then there are days where you just think, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? It does take its toll on you. So my highest recommendation, honestly, is, though there's no real timeline to this approval, try to keep yourself as busy as possible, whether or not that means extending your work, work a little bit longer. Do things that are going to keep you busy, because if you were like me, sat at home with nothing to do most of the day, you drive yourself absolutely insane. I've heard people get it done in much less, and I've heard people get it done in up to 6 months. I think those were quite bad horror stories, and that was a long time ago. I don't know if it's still like that now. Again, if you've had that experience, then let us know below in the comments. I would like to know, because I mean, my timeline when I really look at it now really wasn't that bad. But if you're looking at moving to the UK, be prepared for that. It does happen. So once all that was approved, then I was approved to move to the UK. I received my approval, I believe, just after, it was either right before Christmas or just after, I can't remember now. Either way, I officially flew into Manchester, UK on the 9th of January 2011. So that was the day that everything began, which I will tell you about in the next video. I can't tell you it all now. One, this video is way too long as it is, and two, I wouldn't have any more videos to do if I told you everything at once. So stay tuned to the next video, where I will talk a bit more about the marriage visa, getting married, the interrogation for marriage, and much, much more. As always, thank you all again for watching this video. I hope that you liked it. I hope that you found it interesting. If you could, please just give it a like for me. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. I'd like to have so many more friends. I would like these videos to get out there to help as many people as possible that may be interested in moving to the UK and wanting to know the process, and just so that people can see what it's like, just a different life from maybe what you're living now. As I say in every video as well, if there's any questions you may have about my experience regarding this, or any other topics that you would like me to cover, please put it in the comments below. I do read them, I do check them, and would be more than happy to oblige in making videos about those things. Thanks again, everybody. Until next time, tra me ducks tra. Thanks.